All right, so this is the Laowa 8 to 15 millimeter fisheye zoom lens T2.9. And before we start, disclosure, Laowa did send me this lens to test it out. I have about a month with it. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. Well, and I'm shooting something with it, shooting a spec project with it. I'm going to be shooting it right now as you're watching this video probably. So in a couple of days, it's going to be live. What I mean to say is this is not a sponsored video. This is just, on loan to me. And I have to send it back in a couple of weeks. So that's the disclosure part. And now we can get to the video. Okay, we're going to do the video like any other lens and camera video I've done. I'm going to talk about sharpness, chromatic aberration, distortion, and blah, blah, image quality and stuff like that. Those are all going to be there. But at the end, I want to compare this to, which isn't not the best comparison to make, maybe, but it's an interesting thing because I'm going to compare it to the wide angle adapter because this thing costs 35 euros. I don't know how much this one costs. They did not tell me how much this will cost, but I'm guesstimating it's going to be about $900. This could be completely wrong, and if it's wrong, I'll just put it on the screen right now. But it doesn't matter what it is. It's going to be a lot more expensive than this fella. And I really want to test it out and say, hey, is it like really worth it to rent it sometime and stuff like that. So we're going to be taking a look at that. Timestamps are here. You can jump around, but please don't, because I really need the watch hours, because I promised myself I won't buy YouTube Premium unless I make money from YouTube, unless I make the exact amount of money from YouTube. And YouTube ads are getting so annoying, and I need about 800 more watch hours, so do not skip. All right, let's talk about the lens a little bit, and we can take a look at all the other stuff after that. So the lens is a fisheye zoom lens. It is a 8mm to 15mm zoom. It has a aperture of t2.9 and it goes to t22, and it goes from 8mm to 15mm, which is 8mm is freakishly wide. I moved it. It has a close focus distance of 16 centimeters to 60 centimeters, and then it goes to infinity, which is something that we're going to talk about. Other than that, it has cinema build, has cinema gears, and all metal build. Other infos about this, I don't have anything about the price, but I just covered the price, right? I don't know. I have been told that it has a Sony E-mount options, so I believe it will have like Nikon Z-mount, maybe RF, EF. It has a PL mount, that's like obvious, but I think it will have those too. But don't take my word for it. I will have, I'll put it up on screen, or just, maybe I won't, if I don't know. All right, so body is pretty simple. It has cinema build. It's a good build. It is full metal, nice gears, nice focus throw. The lens, the lens front element, it's a bulky element. So if you want to go circular filters, you cannot go circular filters. Like, they won't fit. I have an 80. Just for the circular filter point, I have an 82mm ND filter, and we're at 15mm right now. And if I were to put it up to the glass element, you're seeing this, like, you cannot go, like, there's no filter threads. But if you if you're crafty and you want to try something, I would guess 92mm, 93mm, 95mm maybe. But if there was a filter thread, I would say it is about 77mm. So, if you want to get crafty and, gaff tape this to the lens, that is how you do it. But I'm guessing if you're thinking about probably not buying, but renting this, you have a matte box, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. And another important info, it has a huge protruding element in the back. So, if you're running native adapters, check it out. I mean, I'm running the Nisi Sony E adapter, the PL to Sony E, but, it's fine, it works, but, it's important to, I think, check it, because like, you cannot use it with the MoFi stuff. That will absolutely not happen. It's really huge. In general, the lens is pretty beautiful. It's pretty compact. There's one thing that I hate, and that is actually the 8 to 15mm writing, the text on the lens, because I know that Laowa is able to do really beautiful lenses, like not just like from the lens perspective, but the packaging and the whole lens itself. it looks so bad. I have a sample unit probably, so maybe it's because it's a sample unit, but it's just something that really annoys me. Probably won't annoy you, but you know, it's something. Okay. So you're getting pretty good image quality, right? In general, you're getting good color reproduction, you're getting good contrast levels. The micro contrast is not quite there, especially if we were to compare the lens. I know comparing isn't the best thing to do, especially with, I'm going to compare it to Nanomorph right now, or like a Tamron 1770. But again, it doesn't really make sense to compare it to them because it's a specialty lens. So we have to take a look at it. It's in this specialty level. But again, contrast levels and color reproduction are kind of universal, and you know, they should be good if we're talking about a lens. With that being said, I don't think it is as contrasty as something like Nanomorph or Tamron. I'm not gonna say Tamron, it's kind of different, but Nanomorph had that like or like Helios or any vintage lens, they have this like a 3D pop thing, the micro contrast, and I don't think, I have not really experienced that with this lens. It's not low contrast of any kind, of any sorts, but it is not as micro poppy. It's not as poppy as those other lenses. And look how wide this is, dude. Like, it's freaking crazy. Again, it's not the best comparison to make, but you get the point. As far as color reproduction goes, it is pretty on point, really good colors. I think it tends to go a little colder on skin tones, and in general tends to go a little colder and a little more magenta, but like really little, especially compared to something like Tamron or the Nanomorph, which they tend to be a little warmer side. This one is a bit on the colder side. Not something that I don't like. I really like the colder lenses, I think, just a tad little bit more. Not a problem at all, but something that I've noticed. You know, talking about chromatic aberration, talking about sharpness and stuff, I think the one thing that I want to say, we have to keep in mind that this is a fisheye lens. It's a very special lens made for special occasions and special shots. It's not something that you would use to shoot a whole thing with, you know? Probably not. Maybe you would. Who knows? Maybe I suck. It is a specialty lens, so we have to see it in this special kind of way. So it's not the best thing to compare this to a very critical, very clean lens. Even though I will still do that, it's maybe not the best idea. Just keep that in mind when I'm talking about these stuff. So the chromatic aberration control on this lens is pretty good. But there's a but to this. You can see on the sides, there's a bit more chromatic aberration happening and a bit more focus fall off, which I'm going to talk about focus fall off too. But it is because this is a fisheye lens. It distorts these stuff. It squishes them. So if I were to go, I can't go that way. So wide, you can see how squished I am. It might not be the best idea to, compare it to that, but in general, in the center and around the image, you're getting really good chromatic aberration control. There's still a bit of chromatic aberration, but it doesn't show up in the bokeh. It doesn't show up on like, oh my god, everything. Like we can try, but I'm showing you the tests anyway. So it's not as obvious as that. Of course, cutting matte will be a bit more obvious than a real scene, but I'm showing you probably both of them, so I guess that would be fine. The color is real nice. Front of the focal plane, you're getting a red orangey hue that's not so like magenta, which I quite enjoy. Back of the focal plane, you're getting blue, like not teal blue, not green blue, you're getting blue, which I'm not the biggest fan of it, but there's not a lot of chromatic aberration, good control, there's a bit, but like what I'm talking about right now is so nitpicky, like you're probably not going to care about this, but it is something that I'm quite interested in because testing these stuff is super fun. When we're talking about sharpness, we have to again keep in mind that we are talking about a specialty lens. Just getting it out there. A bit of personal context in this thing. I don't have a high barrier of pleasure. So for me, the sharpness is quite enough, even wide open, really enough, especially with the modern sensors that we have. You're getting quite sharp images. T4, T5, 6 sharpness is really, really good. focusing is a little different, like not different than the whole thing, how it works. It's the same, but the thing is close focus is at 16 centimeters, which is like really close. Like if I were to, I'm showing you right now, why am I doing this even? And the infinity focus is that like before the infinity focus, it goes up to like 60 centimeters. 16 to 60 centimeters, like 16 to 60 centimeters, which I don't know what is in feet because it says that in here probably 2 feet. It goes up to 2 feet and then it goes to infinity, which is pretty crazy to think. Maybe, of course, there's a point to be made about focus fall off, which there is a little bit of focus fall off, but again, it's, to be honest, quite good control. If we were to, you know, compare it to the wide angle adapter that I've been using, the focus fall off on that is pretty crazy. And this one holds focus pretty well. But again, fisheye lens, special lens, a lot of distortion. So I think, again, this is a pretty woo point.
It's like a cow's opinion. Just doesn't matter. It's moo.
There's also focus breathing, which, you know, I can even show you right now. There's quite little focus breathing, like not super little, but not a lot. And, you know, it's like even less than my Tamron 17-70 or any other lens that I own for that fact. Not a lot of point to be made here. It's a classic fisheye look. You're getting the, you know, incredible barrel distortion. Panning side to side is incredibly fish bowly, and you know, it just with your brain and every kind of way, which in a stylistic way it's pretty cool, but also whoops pretty crazy. But you know, the barrel distortion is kind of my kryptonite. Well, I guess not kryptonite, because kryptonite, like I can't get enough of it, so it wouldn't be my kryptonite. And also, like, you get squished around the edges. Like, if I were to, again, go to this edge, you will see how squished I get when I go to that. If we were to zoom in to, like, 15 millimeters, if I were to go to the edge, it's a lot better. I don't get squished a lot, but, you know, it is something to, I guess, keep in mind. This is a pretty cool one, too. Like, this is pretty cool. Okay, so we're gonna do the flares like this today. Okay. So interesting stuff is happening. This is a T29. Maybe there. That's some cool stuff. Okay, this is pretty interesting. This is pretty interesting. Like the flashlight tests don't really mean. Oh, okay, that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. That is like really cool. Okay, that's pretty cool. You can also see the sun stars, not just the flares. It's the same thing's gonna happen. Okay, so pretty cool. All right, pretty cool stuff. Cool. This is at 8 millimeters right now. Okay, okay, that's pretty cool. And this is freakishly wide, by the way, again. Okay. So the middle element looks really cool. Oh yeah, like that one, like that circle in the middle, that looks really cool. So, yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Should have cleaned the lens bit. Okay, yeah, that's it. So like those, like that complete thing, that is incredible. That is incredible. That's really pretty. Okay, so this was not there in my first testing. Pretty cool. All right, cool. Bokeh. I'm just gonna get super close. So weird. So I think it's pretty bokeh full. If like we have a wide aperture of t2.9, which means at like close distances you are getting pretty good bokeh, especially if you have like a very, deep frame. I think you're getting a pretty good bokeh, and the bokeh quality is also pretty nice. So, if you were to get like those, a foot, or like not foot, but like a sneaker on the lens shot, it's pretty close, and then you're getting a good bit of depth of field. So I think that is pretty cool, which is also a spoiler on what I'm gonna do. Cliche, but I know, but still pretty cool. Why would you buy this lens and not an adapter? Or not buy, but why would you use this lens and not a wide angle adapter? So let's talk about what is better with the lens, and let's talk about what is better with the wide angle adapter. So with the lens, you're getting a sharper image, you are getting less chromatic aberration, you're getting less blooming, the controlling of the lens is a lot better, and you're getting a lot more in general image quality out of the lens itself. The adapter, on the other hand, this is an adapter, so this would mean it goes in front of your lens, which I have videos about that. I put it onto the Nanomorph, I put it onto my normal lenses. There are videos about that, you can check that out too. In general, again, goes on top of your lens, it makes it 0.35 times wider. This has a lot of chromatic aberration and a lot of blooming, especially after 35mm lenses, like after higher than 35mm lenses, the longer, tighter focal lengths, they get, in my opinion, very unusable unless you're going for a very dreamlike sequence, because the blooming and the chromatic aberration and, everything goes so crazy. Like, sharpness is absolute out of that after that, and, you're not getting the best image quality anymore. So that is, I think, one very good and bad thing about the wide angle adapter. I think there are stuff that you actually win with the character of the wide angle adapter because with the wide angle adapter you are getting more chromatic aberration, you are getting more blooming, the edges start to not just distort but actually swirl. Like this one does not swirl as much, it has a lot of focus fall off. So after like this here, the focus falls off pretty sharp, pretty fast. So in the sense of character, you're getting a lot more character out of this one, and you can put it on top of like any lens. It has a 58mm thread, so it's not the widest thing in the world, but you can still use it for a lot of stuff. And it costs 30 euros. Like, that is crazy. That is really crazy. They're not the same thing, like with the wide angle adapter and with the wide angle lens, an actual fisheye lens. But with the wide angle adapter, you're kind of getting the comfort of your own lens. It's kind of shit and it's kind of not shit at the same time, but it is quite a bit cheaper. So it's like 30 euros. Again, like this one will cost a lot more, which this will lead me to my final thoughts about the whole lens. I'm all about seeing this lens as what it is, as what it's meant to be, and not as like this dream lens that I wished they do. I want to take a look at it as what it is. This as a specialty lens is just so great. It has good sharpness, it has really good chromatic aberration control, really good sharpness, really good fisheye qualities to it. Like, it is a fisheye lens. It has heavy distortion, and I do love it for like specialty stuff. Again, I'm gonna kind of come back to the point of like, it kind of makes sense to compare it, but it doesn't really make sense to compare it. This is kind of like a band-aid, and this is a real solution. I don't want to say that. They're different stuff. They kind of do the same thing, but they're different stuff. So I don't, maybe the whole comparing point is wrong. Maybe I'll just delete this point and just do a normal one. But yeah, that's basically what I think of it. Yeah, and I have some negatives about the lens too. So one thing is, this lens is marketed to, it's said that it is a full frame lens. So you're seeing the Super 35 version right now, Super 35 camera right now. It's a Sony FX30. You can see that there is vignetting here, and around there. So it's not quite full frame. I mean, with full frame, you saw the videos probably too. There's a bit of a blackness there. And can we count that really? Like, can we count that as really full frame coverage? Because if we can, this is a full frame one. If not, this is a Super 35, a little closer than Super 35 one. I don't like the front and the back bulk. Very nitpicky. I don't think it's technically possible, probably because if then they would have done it, like with not a big protruding element and stuff. But you know, it might be a kind of an issue if you're using like MoFash filters and stuff, and maybe like some filters, some mounts won't fit at all. I don't know, you know, you have to try it. So that's kind of a bummer. And the fact that circular filters do not go on top of it is kind of an issue. But again, I get it. Where's the filter? Again, I kind of get it, because like it's kind of like, you know, you would need a huge circular filter, and then, you know, filter threads, I don't know if they would be on the way. So, and you know, probably like, again, if you're using this lens, you probably have a matte box, which again kind of leads me to the point of how would it look with a matte box, because, you know, matte box would be like here. So would that actually be on the way? And like, good questions. I have more questions now than I did before. Good. Yeah, but those are the only negative things that I can think about the lens, because it's a specialty lens, and it's a good specialty lens. And I love wide angles. I love this like crazy distortion. And I love going here, and then, you know, here. That was pretty good. I never know how to end these. I don't know what that was. Oh, did you hear that? That was good. Okay, I'm gonna go out now.